Welcome to today's news analysis. We are doing the Indian Express papers Chandigarh edition. Now, today's news that we are covering is Manipur, the assault on women that has taken place. So that is the main theme of today's newspaper actually. Then from exam point of view, Mihir Bhoj, a famous Gurjar Pratihara king, has been in the news. So we'll discuss. Uh, Rule 176 and 267. Some discussion is going on in the Rajya Sabha. So this may be of importance for your prelims. US India is deepening its defense engagement. There is a mention of co-development of long-range artillery guns. Artillery means tope in Hindi. Next, we have an opinion on the Ayushman Bharat. So yesterday we heard about some scam taking place, neurosurgeons doing some scam. So here we'll be looking at the ethical point of view, some achievements and some shortcomings with Ayushman Bharat and need for medical ethics. Wagner Group, you must have heard about. Wagner is a military mercenary group. So Wagner Group is seen training near the Polish border, that is border with the Poland. Crude imports are at 88% high. So all this we are going to discuss in today's newspaper. So let's come to the front page, the first news. So we all know, we have seen on social media what all has happened in Manipur. So 2 months back, women from the Kuki community were stripped, raped, right? So this was the news that has come up. It has led to a political outrage, social outrage also. Now there are allegations being made against the police, that police were siding with the mob and they led them to this. And in fact, this is not the first time. Many other riots, many other communal tensions, you will hear such allegations being made. So here a pertinent question that comes to mind from GS2 point of view, the need for independence or objectivity of police. Police needs to be independent. So here it is saying, if the allegations are true, that police is siding with the majoritarian group, the Meitei community over here. They're taking political sides. So independent. In fact, so this is a matter of concern. Besides this, we can also talk about political interference in the functioning of the police forces. Probably that is the reason. Even in matters of investigation, it can be seen. So what police reforms can be done to bring in independence or objectivity in the functioning of the police forces? So here you can refer to the PRS. There are several committees being made. The most prominent is Prakash Singh committee report. And it basically two things with independence. It calls for an independence in appointment of the state DGP. So that is one thing. So it should be independently appointed and there should be a security of tenure for the official. So security of tenure means that official can do its duty with minimal interference. So that has been recommended. And then there should be the establishment of a police complaints authority. So you can refer to the Prakash Singh committee. It is easily available on the net. You can refer to the police reforms, PRS. So from there also you can get the important points. So one theme that we can draw is values, police reforms, independence, objectivity. The other is values in public services. So foundational values in ethics and all those things we talk about. So this is one good example why we need values in public services. Next news. Hindu Samrat or Gurjar Samrat. Who are we talking about? We are talking about the 9th Chauhan king. The 9th C king. C is referred over here. It's basically the 9th Gurjar and Pratihara king, known as Mihir Bhoj. So some group is saying that he was an Hindu Samrat, some saying he was from the Gurjar community. Now, if you have read the chapter on tripartite struggle, so tripartite struggle, we were hearing about the Gurjar Pratiharas over in the west. Now please note the emphasis on Gurjar. Some say that Gurjar is basically referring to the Gujarat, while there is a community Gurjar, right? So that is that these were basically Gurjars who were a tribal community. So that debate is going on. Okay, so he belonged to the Gurjar Pratihara dynasty. Besides this, there were the Rashtrakutas in the Deccan region and Palas in the east. So they are directly part of your syllabus. Mihir Bhoj was a great conqueror. He was able to, they keep fighting these three groups. Mihir Bhoj was able to shift the balance of power in favor of the Gurjar Pratiharas. So here is this, his military achievements are mentioned. He has built this famous Telika Mandir. These are the things. And further, he also led battle against the Arabs. The Arabs were there on the Indian borders. So he defended against them as well. And Mihir Bhoj has been referred to by Suleiman, one of the Arab chroniclers, so famous foreign traveler. So he is associated with Mihir Bhoj. Okay, so Manipur Supreme Court steps in, PM breaks silence, opposition wants a statement in parliament. So all that, right. Supreme Court is also into it. No question of uniform civil code modalities at this stage, says government. Okay, very quickly. 4 years back, we had 21st Law Commission, which was to look into the uniform civil code, and they said we are not in favor of this. 4 years later, that is the present times, we come to the appointment of the 22nd Law Commission, which again is looking at the uniform civil code. They're saying 4 years have passed, things may have changed. So the views do not stand. We should reconsider the uniform civil code. So now public consultations are going on. Feedback is being sought from the various stakeholders. So the government is saying that at the moment we are not going to fix the modalities, the finer settings of the uniform civil code. So it is indicative that there is a lot of time before the draft on the uniform civil code comes up. So just scrolling. There is one article on, this livestock topic is important. Animal husbandry is important for your GS3. So here there is a case of unethical practices in dairies. Dairies across Union Territory means Chandigarh. So I have listed down the issues. So one is the use of oxytocin. This is a drug to induce hormones, which leads to milking. Right, so oxytocin. So this is being used now when oxytocin has been given, and the calves are not allowed to feed from their mothers or milk their mothers. So calves are deprived to milk, and you're getting these and hormones also. These hormones are also getting into our bodies, human bodies. Then the practice of Kal Bakka. So this is a practice in which the dead calf, the child of the buffalo, the dead calf is filled with hay, grass is filled with grass to simulate milk in the buffalo or the cow. Next is tying them together, tethering them together using heavy chains leading to injuries, etc. Further abandonment, temporary abandonment so that they can roam around the buffaloes, cows, and feed wherever they have to do. So these are some of the wrong unethical practices that have been listed in this article. Scrolling further. Yeah. So political news. Water level is rising. So next is about the Rajya Sabha, Council of States, and there is a disagreement between the government and the opposition over the rules to be used in the Rajya Sabha. The government is saying that Rule 176 should be applied, while the opposition is saying Rule 267 should be applied. So what is this? So this is mainly in context of the things that have happened in Manipur. So in Rajya Sabha, they are saying, I'm saying again Rajya Sabha. So in Rajya Sabha, the opposition says that Rules 267 should be applied, they are demanding, which implies suspension of all business, and discussions should be taking place on this issue of Manipur. So this is equivalent of adjournment motion in Rajya Sabha. Remember that adjournment motion is in Lok Sabha. It is not there in Rajya Sabha. It's mentioned over here. It is not there in Rajya Sabha. And adjournment motion has an element of censure, that is criticism of the government, and it leads to suspension of all business in the house. So Rajya Sabha does not have, but they have Rule 267, which is deemed as equivalent of adjournment motion in Rajya Sabha. Now, why don't we have adjournment motion in the Rajya Sabha? The main reason is that adjournment motion has an element of censure, and therefore it is only for the Lok Sabha to do it. So this is the opposition demand, Rule 267, while the government is saying that we cannot suspend all business. We can have short discussion of 2.5 hours. So this is Rule 176. Next, to meet threat from China, working on long-range artillery with India, says US. No mention of the name of the weapon, long-range artillery, has been mentioned. So this is basically about deepening of engagement between India and US, and India and US relationship, like it or not, it is hinged on China. And when it's on China, US is interested that we support them in pivot to Asia, their policy of pivot to Asia, that is US US is pivoting. US has its foot on the China region, Pacific region over here, with the idea of containing China. So it wants to encircle China. So it wants India's support, India's proximity to the border. And if we are concerned that on the land border side, we are not that, there is perceived weakness in our defense structures, lack of infrastructure as compared to China. So China can mobilize their troops much faster as compared to us because of geography reasons. So we are seeking, there is a understanding between India and US that they'll provide a support with reference to China. For example, long range weapon, supply of advanced aircrafts, C-130 Hercules, which can help mobilize troops quickly to the border areas. So all that. Making of the Apache helicopters. So all those things. So co-produce extended artillery infantry vehicles to address India's operational requirements along its borders with the People's Republic of China. Next is India bans export of non-Basmati white rice. I want to bring up two issues. So let us do the first one, which is there in the news. So non means export of non-Basmati white rice means from India. Export going out is banned. So who has issued this order? First things for prelims, Directorate General of Foreign Trade, and it works under Ministry of Commerce, not Ministry of External Affairs. Normally foreign way associated with this external affairs, but in this case it is Ministry of Commerce and it is dealing with trade. So that's a hint that you can have. Now, why this ban has been done? The reasons are very simple. Depleting of food grains in the central pool, elevated cereal prices are growing up, and threat of erratic monsoon. And we can add to this the complications created by the Black Sea deal. Fine, so these are the main issues over here. Now, one more thing about export of non-Basmati white rice. Now I'm taking up the other issue. China does not export rice. China is one of the biggest producers of rice, but they do not export. They rather import. Why? Because exporting rice is equivalent of exporting water. Rice is a water intensive crop. So China doesn't want to do it. China wants to focus on water security while we are exporting rice and happy about it. So rice takes about 1 kg of rice takes about 2,500 liters of water. Yes, so from some other estimates, about 4,000 liters of water for 1 kg of rice. So it is about equivalent of exporting water. So in general, as a policy, we should avoid export of rice. Moving on, Chandrayaan 3 completes fourth orbit tracing maneuver. So it's very simple. This is Earth. Chandrayaan will orbit around the uh, Earth. It will do 5 orbits, basically orbit around the Earth. So every time it will increase its orbit. It will get further from the Earth, and eventually it will be catapulted to the moon. So instead of taking a direct path to the moon, we are using this orbit approach. In fact, when it reaches moon also, it will reach a bigger orbit, then it will reach a lower orbit, then lower orbit, and finally it will land onto the moon. So that is the idea. Now, why this has been done? Because direct trip will actually take them 4 days, while this is taking them about a month, this orbit route. So direct will take 4 days, but it will require more powerful engines. So it will require more cost as well. So it's a cost saving endeavor. Moving on to the editorial and opinion section. So very simple, Manipur, right? So next is health warning. This is from exam point of view. Right? These articles you want to read, you read, but I'm talking from exam point of view. So recently some news had come up about Ayushman Bharat, some wrongdoings taking place with the surgeons who are critically ill. They are being forced to take private treatment instead of being covered under Ayushman Bharat. So some loopholes have come to light. So here, first of all, we will be talking about Ayushman Bharat. So quick recap, what is Ayushman Bharat? It's a flagship umbrella scheme of the present government, which aims to provide secondary and tertiary healthcare. And later on, primary healthcare was also added. So main focus is actually secondary and tertiary healthcare. And secondary and tertiary healthcare is when hospitalization is there. So hospitalization, because this requires medical emergency and it's requiring a lot of expenditure, and it can push families into poverty. Right, so that's the main issue. So hospitalization related, about insurance of about 5 lakh rupees is provided under this Ayushman Bharat for per household. Now coming to the achievements of this scheme. So it was in recognition that medical emergencies often drive families to poverty. So Ayushman Bharat for this purpose was there. Now in 5 years of the inception of this scheme, 5 crore hospitalizations have taken place, which is a good achievement. Further, out of pocket expenditure, that is expenditure that a patient pays. When we go to the doctor, we spend money from our pockets. So that is out of pocket expenditure. In our country, out of pocket expenditure is very high. It is at 62%. So 62% in 2015. Now this has come down to 47%. 47% in 2020. So data of 2020 is only there with us. Okay. So it has come down. So these are two good achievements. Hospitalization has increased and out of pocket expenditure has come down. Now coming to the concerns. So one concern is about medical ethics. Doctors are seen in in a near defined status. Whatever doctor says, we agree, we don't have an option. In fact, in the relationship of the patient and the doctor having more knowledge, so there is a kind of an asymmetry. We have to depend on to the doctor. Many a times there is a common this thing also, that doctor is giving us is extending the treatment. Sometimes we may say this, or doctor is unfairly giving us advocating a surgery or something, trying to make more money. Sometimes we say like this. So medical ethics, so that has to improve. Second, let's say somebody is eligible also in a government empaneled hospital, but you will not be able to find doctor or the bed. So doctor and bed are not available. There is a long waiting period. In fact, that creates a sense of homelessness in the families. Now, this is a case even for the middle class actually. So middle and upper, because the best doctors you may be finding in the government hospitals, but you'll be sitting outside. So that's the case for everybody. Now, when we talk about the poor and marginalized communities, this may be worst. Further, the poor environment, the poor conditions in the hospital, that makes the matters worse. So something has to be done on the infrastructure side also, right? So that also has to improve. In fact, here again, I can tell you one more thing, that Ayushman Bharat, although hospitalizations have increased, the coverage may not be in proportion to the people who need the support. That is also an issue. We don't have to cover all this. Coming to the international page. So, yeah. So, left to right, Quran protesters storm Swedish embassy in Iraq, envoy expelled. So, first of all, in Sweden, a copy of Quran was burnt. Fine. So, because of this, even Turkey is upset with them, and their NATO bid is getting affected. Now, in Iraq also there is a protest. So, in Iraq there will be an embassy of Sweden, Swedish people. So, there is protest over there. The foreign representative has been expelled. We should look at the map of Sweden now from pre-perspective. So this is the map. You should have a basic idea. It is to the Gulf of Bothnia separates, I mean, Finland and Sweden. So it is the Gulf of Bothnia. This area is known as Baltic Sea. To the west of Baltic Sea is the North Sea. And if we have to arrange the following in uh, clockwise and anti-clockwise order, you should be able to do it. So like this and like this. So Norway, uh, Sweden, Finland, Latvia, Lithuania. All these countries are there in the news, by the way. What else? I think that's good enough. So you should look at the atlas. This is the map. May not have the best information. Now, no, the map of North Europe also must be seen. So this is the North Sea map that I've put it. So Baltic Sea, North Sea over here. So yes. Now moving forward, Wagner launches joint training with Belarus army near Polish borders. North Europe map. This is a good one. Yes. So see, Wagner group was there. They were fighting with the Ukraine. They were fighting in Ukraine with the Russian army. They had a problem. So the Wagner group went to Belarus. They were now it is noted. Now you see where is Belarus and Poland. So Wagner group is training on the Polish borders. And Poland was always raising a concern that someday Russians may get invade into Poland. So that was always a concern. Starting from a very, very medieval point of time, very, very long back, Russia used to go into the Polish territories. Even during the World Wars, this had happened. Russia is Polish territories. Okay. C gets nostalgic with old friend Kissinger. Kissinger was responsible for normalization of relations between China and US in 1970s, and Z and Kissinger shares good bond with each other. At the same time, we are hearing the foreign, the finance of minister, their equivalent, Janet Yellen, is in Vietnam. So US considers Vietnam as a key partner in advancing a free and open India trade. Now let us look at Vietnam also map. In fact, India is looking at supplying BrahMos missile to Vietnam. So it has already supplied, plus it is supplying naval ships to Vietnam. And why would it do? See, Vietnam and China has tensions. And it is part of India's extended neighborhood policy are having, in that. So we are seen as a part of net security architecture of this region. Now coming to Vietnam, these are the Indo-China countries. You should know the clockwise and anti-clockwise arrangement. Plus Vietnam, so Gulf of Tonkin is there. South China Sea is there. South China Sea, you should know that they are in proximity to it. Moving on to the economy section. So India's reliance on imported crude oil increases to 88.3%. Used to be 85 actually. So it has increased to 88.3%. So we get this. Okay. Now, what does this indicate? Why should we be concerned? So crude is imported. Of course, it is important. Import in dollars. So our dependence on forex gets affected because of this. Now, if for some reason US Federal Bank decides to increase interest rate, so in that case, the dollar will appreciate. So when the dollar appreciates, the fuel gets expensive. Let's say the fuel prices is $70 per barrel. So the fuel prices will get affected by the price of crude itself, 70 to 80, $80, $90, and the price of the dollar also. Now, what should be done? That's the main question, right? From GS3, GS2, we can look at it, international relations. So one thing is negotiating with the countries, negotiating for a lower crude price. So that can be done. Think of yourself as somebody who's working in the foreign ministry or something, advisor to the foreign minister. So negotiate, plus call for internationalization of rupee, international trade. Let's say Iraq and India can trade in rupees. That arrangement can be done so that dependence on dollar is come down. Secondly, ethanol blending is being talked about. So if we can increase the blending of ethanol with petrol, diesel, then in that case, our demand will automatically come down. Then we should find new exploration sites within India, outside India by means of reverse SEZ, that is Indian company going to Iraq, Iran, setting up their setup and exporting oil to India. So that is known as reverse SEZ. So something like that arrangement can be there. So that's the main thing. Then global foreign institutional investments, foreign money is coming into the Indian stock market. So stock markets are at a high. IT sector is not doing very well. Infosys halves revenue guidance fiscal year 24. So things are not looking good for the IT sector. And IT sector is dependent on export of IT services to developed countries. Developed country economy is not doing well, so IT sector is affected. FMCG, HUL is a very big company and their profit is up. Now, normally we expect this is an indicator of how the demand is there in the economy, because these are the common things that we buy. HUL makes common things. Now, they are also saying that rural demand is yet to rebound. So, rural demand is also weak. Even they are saying, but somehow they have managed a good return. So, it's indicator of economy as well. So this is it today from today's newspaper. Tomorrow I may not be able to submit it, so maybe we'll have the news on Monday only, because Saturday I have a